Hello, everybody. It's Heather with the Leadership with Heart podcast. And today I am happy to have Jennifer Curtin on. She is someone thought that she would be amazing for the show. They were listeners of the show, and I love that. So, for those who are listening, if you know of any great leaders, leaders with the heart, people who show up with more care in the work they do, please do refer them. And I'm so happy to have you on too, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here.
So, tell everybody right now, where are you in your leadership journey?
Yes, absolutely. So I currently am the general manager of the Beatrice Hotel, so located in Providence, Rhode Island. And so as the general manager, really at the helm of all of the success of the hotel. So I have, a pretty robust team, everything from a sales team to a front office team to a housekeeping team, revenue management. So really all the different disciplines that come together and make up a hotel and make a hotel successful. So that's where I am. And, I feel like leadership is such a crucial part of my job. Every day it's mentoring and leading and guiding. And I love it. That's what keeps me in this industry.
And I'm so tell us when you said earlier about the success of the business, tell us a little bit more about, just a little bit about maybe the history or, what's kind of unique about that. And then just how you are as a leader, what makes your style of leadership and contributing to some of the success there.
Yes, absolutely. So this hotel, so the Beatrice Hotel, so we opened just over 2.5 years ago. So we're still a new hotel. We opened here in Providence, Rhode Island, right kind of at the tail end of COVID. So very challenging time, as I'm sure you can all imagine, to be launching a brand new hotel and a luxury hotel in that. So definitely a lot of challenges, everything from getting the materials to put together the rooms to recruiting and hiring. As I'm sure everyone in a leadership role knows, recruiting and retention did not get any easier with COVID. It definitely presented some more challenges. So, we've been open, just about 3 years, and I'm actually really proud along that note. I'm actually really proud of our retention rate of our team. I have a handful of team members that have been with us from the day that the doors opened, and some even before the doors opened. We were kind of coming together, and everyone from myself as the general manager to the front desk team members to different managers, doing all the little things that it takes to open the doors of a hotel, and having a lot of those members still on the team to this day in an industry where the turnover rates are typically pretty high, is a really proud thing for me. And, so I think that all is a result of leadership style. That's something that I lead my work with, my leadership style. I'm a very firm believer. Most in this industry, have maybe a different approach. Everyone typically says the guest comes first. I have, what may be an unpopular opinion, if you will, but I truly believe that if you take care of your team and you are a strong, positive leader in your environment, all of the rest really follows. If you take care of your team and that is, a huge focal point for you, the guest experience is much more successful than if you didn't take care of your team. The financials fall into place. Really just everything starts gelling and falling into place. When you have a core team that feels a part of the mission, they feel like they are in the know of what the goals of this property are. They feel heard, they feel respected, they feel safe, which seems like a no-brainer, but maybe not in every work environment they feel that. And so for me, it's really practicing on those core elements of the employee experience. And I know that if I'm doing that well and my team is enjoying what they're doing every day, the guest experience is going to thrive as well.
How did you get so smart, Jennifer?
You know, what I will say, it's life is all about experiences. I am someone that's very open-minded. Some may call me creative, and it's all about who you know in life. I've made it a point to always surround myself around mentors that I'm learning from and that I'm inspired by. And I give it all off to my mentors. I mean, I am so grateful for everyone, that I've had the privilege to work alongside. And even a lot of what's unique in this industry is female leaders. I've been fortunate. My first managerial job in a hotel, I had a female GM. Right now, working for Main Street Hospitality, my CEO, Sarah Eustace, is a female leader. And so, I always am mindful of that. And I feel like my mentors have really been pivotal in my career and helped me get to where I am today.
Mentors. And then, so what do you think might be your secret sauce besides the mentors and having that mentorship and the people that you look to? What do you think is your special secret sauce as a leader to be able to have the retention rates that you do?
I think it's something, of course, it's a skill set that you always need to work on, and there's always improvement to be had. But for me, I feel like it's something it's deeply rooted. I've always been someone that is mindful and wants to make sure everyone in the room is well taken care of. Everyone's happy. Everyone feels supported and welcomed. I feel like that is just in my DNA, and I feel like that very much shines through in my leadership abilities and style. And, I think it's that. And then also being very humble and being very open-minded, if you will. If things don't go the way you want them to go, or they don't feel amazing, recognizing that and not just calling it how it is, kind of digging in deeper and trying something new and not being demotivated by that, but really, digging back in and figuring out how things can go maybe a different way so that they come out a bit more successful.
Okay, so I'm going to call out the obvious. How did you become a GM of this luxury resort with your youth?
With my youth, this industry is amazing for that reason. Truly, if you are an extremely hard worker and you put in the care and the desire, I always say that what we do in the hospitality industry, it's not rocket science. You do not need a doctorate degree, if you will. So really, it's about what you show up with every day. And for me, I haven't stopped. I'm very motivated. I've made a point to continue my growth by being open to whether it's new companies or new geographical locations, whatever it may be. Every time that I start to feel like I needed a new challenge, I seeked it out. And, I used my mentors and I used the relationships that I've made along the way to really make sure that I was continuing to advance in my career. I'm someone that doesn't like to when I feel stability or I feel like I'm kind of reaching that plateau, I'm ready for the next. I'm ready for the next challenge, and so I've always kind of followed my career in that lens, and I will say that plays a lot into how I've gotten into this role here.
I love it. Oh, I love all of it. I'm knee deep in my next book on the art of self-leadership. This will be my third book in the series of the art of, for those who already listened, you know that. And so we have the art of carrying leadership, the art of active listening, and now the art of self-leadership, which, by the way, for those who are listening, it's the first time I revealed the title of that next book. I think you're going to be inside of it. You are really exemplary and just a great example of what it is I'm hoping to get through to those who read it, whether they are those who have titles like GM or those who don't, who aspire to either have a title or don't, who aspire to have more influence inside of the workplaces. So just what you stand for is amazing. What do you do, Jennifer, to fill your own cup? What do you do for you do you have a daily cadence to be able to allow you to show up with as much strength and empathy as you do?
Yeah, I will say for me, it's so rewarding when I have employees that I have identified and maybe they vocalize they want more, they want to be exposed or learn a different facet, and then taking the time to coach and train them and seeing them succeed. That is, when that's happening, I know that I'm doing my job well. And, I, to this day, stay in touch with so many peers that I've mentored in different hotels, different parts of the country, and just keeping track on where they are in their career and seeing, how they've developed and grown is so rewarding because I know that, I've had an impact on that. And I stay in close communication with multiple employees, and they'll call me when they get promoted into their next role, or, when they have a victory in their career. And that feels really good to me. So yeah, I think that fuels me on a daily basis. And, also just, I'm a competitive person by nature. And so, being in tune with like hotels, again, we're a luxury boutique hotel. We're an independent hotel, which is a really creative space. That means that there is no playbook, by a brand. And so really our success is based on our creativity. And so I'm always staying in touch with similar properties, seeing what they're doing and really comparing that to what we're doing. And, recognizing when we're doing something really creative and really cutting edge that a traveler and the guest experiences is seeking in their travels.
I love that so much. Well, we can hear, obviously that you have, you're a person who leads with such care for those around you. Now is the point of the episode where we want you to share with us a time where maybe you were not the leader with heart, where you did not just demonstrate care, where you may look back and go, like to this day, I still regret how I showed up. But what was the trigger? What was the catalyst for you to kind of come out of that specific example to become more enlightened?
Yeah. I will say the biggest thing that sticks with me, that I learned a ton from, is when I was first in leadership roles, I thought it was a better look to be the doer and to just do everything rather than delegate. Delegating was extremely challenging for me. And I will say to this day, it's something that I have to be conscious of and really be mindful about. But what I didn't realize is not only was I, just constantly engrossed in trying to get everything done and probably not doing the work to the best of its ability, or maybe not in the timeliest manner, but I was also taking myself away from being present with my team. I was head down taskmaster trying to just get everything done rather than share the wealth of work that needed to get done. And the biggest thing that struck me is that I had no insight of until after the fact, was that it also was making my team feel insignificant. They didn't feel like they were trusted to take on whatever these projects and these tasks were. And it wasn't until an employee said, like, look, like, you have us. Why aren't you using us? And it was coming from a tone of, do you not think that I'm capable? And that really stuck with me. And I'm so grateful that that conversation was had with me. And I took a step back and I was like, wow, that's right. Like, why am I not, including my team? And everyone knows, like, there are moments where it's just quicker and easier to do something rather than coach and train and, utilize another team member. But I found that is so important. And so now I'm very mindful of that. And I think that ties into my leadership qualities. Is I know every single one of my employees, and I try to know what their interests are, with different, in a hotel, there's so many different departments and areas within the hotel. So I want to know, what is it that they're interested in? What is it that they feel most successful and, like they're doing their best work in? What area is that? And what are their career goals? Where do they want to see themselves? And so with knowing that, then when there's new tasks that come up, it's really all about taking the time to get them involved, let them know that I trust them to be, at the helm of that task, and coach and train them along the way so that they come out of whatever that project or whatever that task may be, feeling successful and getting them ready for the next step in their career. So that was a huge eye opener. And like I said, I mean, it's by nature, it's probably easier for me to just do things rather than take the time to delegate. And so I have to be very mindful of that and remember that it's bigger than just getting the task done. It's also about your employees and the culture that you're creating and fostering.
I love that so much. I talk about that as it relates to like leaders who think they have to do it all by themselves, but also not realizing that the team can help us bypass burnout. The team
Yes.
can help us bypass our blind spots. The team has so much knowledge at the front line, what's happening, and why not call upon it? And so, brilliance, like that was a moment of brilliance for you. And then
Yes.
realizing too how much we help them make a contribution, makes them feel more important, more valued, makes them want to stay in the environment that makes them
Yes.
feel more important, more valued. It's like this circular thing that we do, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, now we're at the time of the podcast where you get to ask me anything. It's like you all of a sudden become the podcast host. What good question might you have for Heather?
Yes. I love this, Heather. I mean, you have so many amazing accolades, from your podcast and your books and everything. And, your philosophy on leading with empathy is I wholeheartedly stand behind that and agree with you. But I know there's definitely times, in the work environment where others maybe don't lead with that as a number one priority. So I'd love to hear from you any moments in your career where you maybe had a workforce or a work environment that didn't agree with that logic and how you handled it.
Oh, that's a great question. I've never had anybody ask me that before. I would have to say a couple things that are embedded in what you asked. One is the empathy, leading with empathy, and which is partly true. I would have to say more than empathy, I think leading with compassion. And that means not only do I lean in to understand your issue, your concern, and take the time to listen and that might be all that I need to do. But that compassion says, I want to take some kind of action on your behalf. And I have evolved in the last several years, to really believe that compassion wraps up to include both empathy and even more. So it's that compassion action that's really embedded. Yes, the reason why I am on my own is because I've been in so many environments where leaders, either they don't lean with empathy to start, and they definitely don't take any compassionate action. And so I decided to go on my own predominantly because of that. I was looking to be the change I was seeking in the world, and I wanted to create a world where people could understand the importance of leading in this way. So that's part of the issue. I had one manager I can think of who I guess he just never got anything that was going on. He never understood what all the people around him had a lack of trust, because when he came around them, his whole focus was to serve himself by getting information, serve himself by somebody going to do something. He wasn't there to serve the other people, and everyone sniffed it out. And I would personally try to coach up, because that was like my natural way of leading, and to try to, and I would think I'd see a little glimmer of hope, like maybe he was getting it, but then he would kind of go back to the same patterns of behavior of not leaning in or not really being there to serve the other person. And it was a big turnoff for me and so many others. It's unfortunate that he just didn't try to turn another stone on that. So there are plenty of times where I think in environments we see that happening. And I always try to kind of lean in with my own ear and empathy to understand where that person's coming from. Like, why are they that way? And it's, well, you were talking about deeply rooted. I do think many of those behaviors are just deeply rooted. And some of the time I can make an impact, or there can be a dent that one of us can make. And then many other times we won't, like those, because it's so deeply rooted. If they don't have a strong awareness and commitment to change, it's just never going to happen.
Right. No, I think that's a great point. And recognizing when, if you're giving every effort you can to change something and it's still not changing, just recognizing that, okay, it's quite all right. There are two approaches here, and they don't need to continue together, right? It's okay to respect different approaches and part ways when needed.
Oh, absolutely. And I think carrying leadership is part of that. When you just said, like, that is so true, because it's coming from you, which means most everything's coming from the heart. It's coming from a place of care, concern. So for you to say that, then to say, and sometimes we have to part ways, is a part of being a leader with heart.
Exactly. No, it's I've had similar leaders and managers as well, and ultimately it resulted the same way in parting ways, and it wasn't anything other than just recognizing that we weren't on the same path. There wasn't a desire to be compassionate, motivate and inspire the team to do bigger and greater things. It was more of, this is the way we do it. This is the way we've always done it. There's nothing broken, so let's not try to fix anything, just keep status quo. Whereas I come from a place of let's motivate, let's energize. Yes, this isn't broken, but I think we have ability to really push the needle a little bit further. And that's my approach. And so ultimately I had to sit down, and although I respected that for them, it was, more important to just kind of keep everything predictable and stable. That wasn't me, and I had to go find what was me, which is an environment, much more challenging and not afraid of trying new things and bringing a larger group into the decision making and really the whole strategy behind the operation.
Yes. I do think that the concept of inclusion. So inclusion to me means bringing different people around the table, like not always having the same faces there because of the mindset that all this groupthink takes place. And then you're just really not thinking outside the box. You're not being innovative. You're not seeing problems that are staring in your face. And so your
Right.
idea of let's think about who needs to be in this conversation. Let's bring these people. It doesn't matter if you don't think they belong there or their title doesn't put them there or whatever the issue is.
Right.
Bringing more people around the table is always going to be the smartest journey to getting to where we need to be. I mean, obviously we have to have that. We have to have time to ourselves to kind of process. I call it decoding, to process what's happening, to process our next steps by ourselves too. But we need to make sure we do that processing in a group too. So,
Of course, absolutely.
that's awesome. So for those who are listening right now, who might be, they could be on a smooth journey, bumpy journey. They could be on, who knows where they're at in their leadership journey right now. They might need a couple pearls of wisdom to kind of get them through the day, the week, the month, just to be able to think more clearly. What might be a couple pearls of wisdom you would lead them with?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's really kind of coming back to what are your goals? What actually makes you walk out the door from work? We spend so much time at work. When you walk out the door, what actually makes you feel like you had a good day? And sometimes it's about just drawing it back to that and maybe restructuring your priorities throughout the day. I think, the work environments, it's easy to get bogged down in any one lane of tasks. But maybe it's just about restructuring what makes you feel successful in a day or in a week or in a month. And so for me, it's looking at that and making sure that I'm balancing my time in all the right areas. For, leading a team, it goes back to motivating them and knowing where they're at, kind of maybe even before they do, and knowing what they're capable of. I've had so many employees that maybe don't think that they can get beyond the role that they're working in, and they think that that's maybe their forever trajectory. And so really, being that inspiration, being that confidence boost to get them to that next step in their career, and then to see how impressed they are with themselves and how much happier they are when they didn't even think that that was a possibility. So just kind of being open-minded and picking up on those moments of opportunities, but then also balancing your time so that you can feel success in every day. I think that's important. And so sometimes that's just restructuring how you look at your day, your week, your month, and everything beyond.
I love that. Just number one, I mean, you seeing your role as being the one who gives people a glimmer of hope or helps to paint the mission and vision, helps them see where their trajectory could be. Because you're right, many people just completely defeat themselves and don't see that they have so much inside of them. And you saying, well, let me just kind of give you that you're going to take this step and this step and this step. And every time you take this step, you see how good you really are. And it helps to boost their confidence. And so you seeing yourself as the leader who does that. And if we who are listening can kind of see our roles in a much more global way, spend less time on tactics. Of course, we have to do some of those, but more time on growing and developing people, the results are going to be amazing.
Yes, yes. And in a hotel environment, we have so many metrics that we're constantly grading ourselves on. And for me, I always try to acknowledge and recognize. So I'll give an example, the housekeeping scores. Our guests rate us on how clean the room was when they checked in, or how clean was the lobby of the hotel. And so, that could easily be delivered to that team just as a number. Okay. You got 4.8 out of 5 on this one here. But thankfully, we have some amazing scores. We have a lot to celebrate with that team in particular. And so I really try to share that and compliment the team, and also explain how that feeds into the higher goal, right? So that directly feeds into the financials of this hotel, our return guest capture ratio, all of these bigger metrics that, without sharing that with them, they may not think they have a direct impact on, but in fact they do. And so I always try to be very mindful of, when there is good recognition to be given, it needs to be shared. It's easier to just kind of, okay, everything's good, great, move on to what's not great. But I'm a firm believer the good recognition needs to be shared equally as much as the areas that you're maybe falling short in. Of course, you can't, dismiss that. It still needs to be discussed, talked about, action plan created and worked on. But when there's good things, share that with the team. And if it's applicable, correlate how that impacts maybe the bigger goals, or the things beyond what they may assume they have a responsibility in.
Well, Jennifer, you have such a head on your shoulder, and just a natural leader, but one who works hard, who's just, I think your level of intentionality and focus, and your big-heartedness as it relates to those who look to you for guidance every day, including, your team members and your guests, is just really inspiring. I'm so glad I said yes.
Thank you.
So they knew who I would want on here, and they were right. So you this is great. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Heather. I'm glad you said yes as well.
And thank you, everybody, for listening to the Leadership with Heart podcast. Be well.